Okay, so water companies are constantly looking at ways in which they can improve health and safety for their employees, and I presume NWG is no exception in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking at new ways of keeping our people and contractors safe. I think we live in a time where technology is constantly evolving. There's lots of new ways of working, and we have to be able to keep up with that pace of keeping people safe. You've got the rise of AI technology. I know in the business we've started using drones and obviously gas detection solutions that we're talking about today. So yeah, absolutely. We work quite closely with Water UK as well, which is a collective group of all the water companies of sharing ideas and best practice and learning for each other. Yes, it's like I said, times change, standards change, and I think we learn something new every day, and we've got to be able to keep pace with that. So absolutely.
Yeah, and certainly we found that at Blackline Safety. We've been lucky enough that we're quite successful in the water utilities market, and certainly sort of cross collaboration between best practice, what works sort of between sort of each individual company is definitely sort of best practice. Yeah, it's something that we found definitely over the last few years.
Okay, and in terms of NWG and how you sort of hooked up with Blackline, I guess the starting point was that you became aware of, should we call them limitations? There was nothing necessarily wrong with what you were doing, but there were perhaps some limitations with some of your existing solutions, and that was through user feedback. So yeah, can you perhaps describe some of the things that people were telling you?
Yeah, so it was all born really. We made some changes of how we're going to manage our explosive atmospheres following the Wessex water disaster back in 2020. I think that really made the entire industry sit up a little bit and explore what we could do better. And we seem to be well behind some other industries such as oil and gas. So we're asked what we did. We're asking people to take gas detectors in to monitor hazardous environments. We didn't have enough of those gas detectors. They couldn't monitor every point that we needed them to do that. And we're also asking to stop taking in ignition sources such as your mobile phones. And the challenge for us there is our mobile phones are also our lone working solution. So we couldn't have people working in these areas with a mobile phone and that being their only solution. So yes, that was the feedback. As soon as we implemented these new standards, that was the feedback we got on site straight away. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And so by improving one risk, I suppose what we've done is introduced some other risks which we need to sort of explore, and that's how it was all sort of born and looking at the different solutions that we're trying to put in place.
Okay, and I guess that logically you moved on to the decision to look for an all-in-one solution, which, as you say, around gas detection and lone worker safety in particular. So that's what you were looking out for, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. So the feedback we had is from the guys on the ground is they just want to go and do their jobs and they want to do it safely. They didn't want to have a whole host of devices, things to log on to, do this, do that. We just wanted to make it as efficient as possible for them as well. So an all-in-one solution just seemed the best thing for us. And we've done some trials now at 2 high-risk biogas sites, and the feedback we had was exactly that. It was an all-in-one solution that worked for them on the ground.
Okay, so yeah. I guess then it'd be good to understand how NWG's involvement with Blackline Safety came about. Did you sort of look at lots of suppliers? What was the process whereby you came to work with Blackline?
Yes, I think as I mentioned before on the Wessex water disaster, we sort of got together as industry, implemented these new standards, and this turned us the question around, well, how do we monitor larger areas? How do we make sure people can lone work in these areas? And we looked across the market, we looked at our current suppliers, and it just didn't seem to be the solution out there that we needed, which encompassed it all in one. So we did some work with Michelle Smith from Blackline, who allowed us to trial some of the devices, and it's really gone from there with it.
Okay, and then I guess the next obvious question would be, what is the solution? What is it that Blackline Safety have actually supplied to you? What is it and what does it do?
Yeah, so our initial point of contact is what we're looking for was the EXO unit. So that allowed us to put it into an area, it allows us to monitor that entire area. So you can have multiple people working in in that area safely. You're not having to use different types of monitors for different types of gases. It's a multi-gas solution. And then further down the line, we sort of explored with them the lone worker issue and found that Blackline had a solution for that as well, where the portable gas detector was also a lone working unit, which offers a man down function, push to talk solution, so they can communicate with each other, and also the feature if something did go wrong, it's a cloud-based solution which allows other people on site to be aware that something's gone wrong.
Okay, and in terms of I mean, you kind of, I guess, half sort of explained that, but in terms of the benefits you are getting from the solution, be good to understand. And also, I think, if I remember correctly, you've actually had a sort of specific case where the technology has already sort of proved itself, a sort of real world example. So perhaps, sort of the general benefits, and then maybe tell us, what actually happened in the field as well.
Yeah, so some of the general benefits, obviously, we've got the lone working solution allows us to monitor a much greater area than what we could. Some of the additional benefits we got from the product was around the cloud monitoring feature. So that was, we could have someone monitor the atmosphere in real time, which is away from the area, which is ideal, is what you need in environments which can really quickly change. And the monitoring feature, the cloud systems allowed us to pick up low-level gas leaks around our sites. So not gas leaks that's necessarily going to cause the monitors to alarm, but what we found is through usage, going through certain areas, we picked up low levels that allowed us to identify where we've got particular higher risk parts of the site and sort of respond to that accordingly. And yeah, we had a really, really good intervention using the unit. So it was the EXO unit. We had it on trial at one of our biogas sites, and we were doing some hot work, doing some welding in an area which we typically didn't think was going to be explosive atmosphere, or we didn't think one was going to exist. But because we had the unit there, we thought, well, give it a try. We'll just put it down, set it away, and see what happens and see how we get on with it. And then just before the hot work started, the unit started alarming, and everyone stopped work. Everyone left the area. And what I really liked was it was the notification went to the site manager, who was instantly aware of what had happened. He phoned the guys up and said, "Is everyone okay? What's going on?" And they just said, "Yeah, we hadn't started anything, but the monitors picked up a potential explosive atmosphere." So we did a little bit of further investigations down the line, and actually hit around 75% of the explosive limit, which is really, really close, much higher than the threshold and what we would normally work. We would consider anything, above 10% as an immediate stop work. It's too close for comfort type of thing. So it was a really good intervention from the units in an area where we didn't even realise we had that risk. And I think the people on the ground saw immediately the benefit of using these, and give them that peace of mind when they work in there. Particularly what had gone on a few years at Wessex, they know they're safe when they're working with these units there. So it was a really, really good intervention. And like I say, everyone saw the benefits straight away.
And it's the power of the sort of connected data, being aware of that sort of, instantly being able to look at that data. It's really, really a good story, and sort of very pleased that it sort of it happened and sort of didn't end up, like 2020.
And in terms of the relationship that's developed, I mean, is that it, or are you looking at working together and into the future and coming up with other solutions, or helping from Blackline's point of view, helping NWG and NWG? Are you looking to Blackline to give you some more help?
Yeah, I mean, as I said sort of earlier, we're quite lucky that we're quite successful in the water utility market in the UK. We're always looking at ways in which we can sort of, utilise our system and our devices, and that's not just from, hardware or software, but using the data, heat maps, again, like, Dan said earlier, areas that you don't even expect there to be gas. We've had other examples of where, there's been a build-up, it's been under the alarm threshold, but and it's something simple like, the extract fan in that particular area or environment just needed filters changing or servicing, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we're always looking at sort of ways in which we can improve and work with our end users, and they're the ones with the sort of the experience that hopefully we can sort of implement into our systems. Data's a wonderful thing if you use it sort of correctly. Yeah,
I think for us as well, because this is the very start of a journey for us, there's there's going to be things later on down the line, which I'm sure will come up against other challenges. So working with companies like Blackline and looking at what other technologies out there to get rid of those issues and give people on the ground that peace of mind, it's definitely something that we'd be considering.
It's also getting buy-in from the users as well, isn't it? You know, that's sort of key as well. You know, there's a lot of equipment, a lot of things that your users need to do on a daily basis just to do their tasks. So, you know, if there's solutions out there that will make it easier for them, you know, the buy-in from the users is a lot more simple.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe just in finishing from both your perspectives, it'd be good some thoughts, advice. You know, when you're looking, because you know, all equipment, I guess, that goes in is important, but when health and safety lies at stake, it's even more critical, I guess. So, any sort of advice when people come to evaluating? Are there any sort of things that, you know, the must-haves, or, you know, things that would make you slightly wary? Just any advice you can give to folks when they come to assessing health and safety solutions would be great to have.
Yeah, so I think for me, firstly, it's good collaboration across the industry and other industries. That, to me, there shouldn't be a competitiveness when it comes to health and safety. Everyone's got the same goal at the end of the day of keeping their people and everyone else safe. And generally what you find is if you have an issue, there's been another number of companies have exactly the same issue and gone through the same process. So I think building up that good relationship and the network with people and suppliers to help you overcome them risks is a definite must for me. And then once you've found that solution, I think it's around working with the guys on the ground. You know, it's all well and good as me as a health and safety professional saying there's a bit of equipment, you know, go and use it. And I'm not the one that's having to deal with that day in, day out. And it's find a solution, working with them from the very outset to get their buy-in, get their feedback, and the conversations change very quickly from me going to site and saying, well, why are you not using this equipment? And not really understanding the reason why behind that. And it turns that conversation into, thanks for using that equipment. It's good to see that you're benefiting from it, and it's an investment that we've made in yourselves. And I think it improves the overall health and safety culture of a business.
Yeah, and we find that sort of, you know, evaluations and trials of the solution and the system, the connected element of it, are really, really successful. Like you said, you know, to get the buy-in from the users, you know, and also sort of, you know, being able to sort of, you know, change the way in which you look at things, you know, for the better.
Okay, I mean, it's been great to chat to both of you, and thanks for sharing the insights, because I mean, it's fascinating to, you know, understand the story, and obviously, I guess the exciting bit is, you know, it's not just the theory, but it turns out it works in practice as well, which is always, you know, good confirmation. But really appreciate the time you've given me. So Dan and Julian, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you both.